The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Good evening and welcome to our first budget hearing of 14. So you guys are number one. Congratulations. Let's give a round of applause to our hosts from Phoenix Children's for giving us this space, great space. So this is the first hearing for the trial budget. The city manager proposes a trial budget. We invite the community to give comments to myself and to the mayor and city council members. I want to recognize our councilwoman from District 8 and vice mayor currently of the city, Vice Mayor Kate Gallego is with us. Councilwoman Pastor will be here. She's held back at a meeting, but she will be here. And I also would recognize former councilman from District 4, where we are. Craig Tripkin is in the audience. So Craig, thank you for your service. So we invite you, as we get started, to pick up one of these budget books. It explains in rather high detail, rather high level, the trial budget. If you want to know more detail, there's more and more. If you go to the phoenix.gov/budget website, you can dig in as far as you want to go into this. But this gives you a good overview of the budget that's proposed. The budget that's proposed is option 1 in that book. And then there are 4 other options with that. And that will be explained in the video, which we'll talk about in just a second. If you'd like to speak, we'd ask you to fill out a speaker card. I have 11 of them so far, so that's great. They're back in the corner there. And we just ask you to do that so we can keep track. What we're doing is we're recording this for Channel 11 and for YouTube. We are also taking minutes, notes of it, so we'll reflect your comments with your name per the card. And when we get to that point, we'll ask you to speak into the microphone, and that's so that everybody can hear, but it's also so that it can be captured for the camera. I want to thank our city staff who are here. We have staff from all different departments who come. They're not paid extra to be here. And I want to recognize city staff who are here representing your departments. Would you please raise your hand? So if you have specific questions during the evening, we may direct you to individual staff to answer those questions, but they're also here just to learn about what's important to you. So let's see here. I will give a quick overview of the budget. I will ask the Vice Mayor if she'd like to say any words. And then also Ruben Alonzo is here from the Mayor's office. Ruben, thank you for representing Mayor Stanton. This is the most complex budget in my memory, because we have services, which is the budget, we have labor negotiations, which we have every 2 years, and we have this thing happening which is related to our debt service. That means we have to think about what we're going to do with property tax in the city. Those 3 things come together, and they give a lot of complexity to this budget. So that's why there are multiple options to the main trial budget as we get that. It is required by state law and city charter that we have a balanced budget at the city, and so everything adds up to a balance at the end, as you'll see in there. It does include options to consider. This budget proposes a property tax increase in order to pay our debt service so that we have the money available to do the other things recommended in this budget with employee restorations and some service additions. But if property taxes are not acceptable to the community, then there are other options that we would have to get into, and those are described in the other options in the book, and they'll be described in the video. So this is a matter of trying to seek the right balance between revenues, right? None of us wants to pay more taxes, but we all want services, and we need employees to provide those services. So what's the right balance of all those things? And that's what the trial budget gives a proposal for, and we're asking for your feedback on that. Is it worth it to you to pay a little more in property taxes in order to have some concession restoration for employees and some service restorations? Or is it not worth it, and so you'd rather see other things go away, and that balance works for you? That's what we'd really like to hear from you tonight, is how you evaluate those things. And that'll inform us as we go back. In early May, then, I'll present a proposed budget that incorporates the feedback that we get from the community. So your feedback is really important. As I said, this is the first of 14, and we look forward to hearing from you. Before we go to the video, I'll ask Vice Mayor Gallego if she'd like to say a few words. And also, I would note, we do have an interpreter, Judy Holm, here. If you need translation in Espanol, Judy, would you just say a word?
Buenas tardes, soy intérprete de español. Si alguien necesita el equipo, por favor, venga conmigo. Estoy en la mesa de atrás. Gracias.
Thank you. And now, Vice Mayor Gallego.
Thank you to everyone who is giving up their evenings with their friends and family to be with us here today and to help us create a better city. We have a lot of folks in the audience who are citizen leaders within the city, so thank you to those of you who volunteer your time attending our meetings, chairing our boards and commissions, serving on boards and commissions, leading block watches. And if you fall in that category, could you raise your hand so that we can recognize you for your service to our city? The citizens really are our leaders at the city, so thank you to those of you who help us day after day, hour after hour, create a better city. We do it in partnership with the city employees, and I want to join the city manager in thanking those of you who are working late into the evening as well as we have these budget hearings. They are enormously important, from changes to where we fund our parks improvements, how much we invest in arts and bicycling. There's a huge number of things, public safety, that the city does in direct response to the comments you make here today. We're giving you even more options this year, and hopefully that will be helpful. We got a lot of feedback from the last budget that citizens didn't want to just be restricted to what they saw in one budget, but they wanted to be able to react to multiple different options, and so we have a lot of different options you can react to today. We've heard loudly that people value our services to the citizens, and in many cases want more, but we've also heard that times are tight for many people. Particularly our senior citizens are struggling financially, and they've urged the city to be financially responsible, fiscally responsible. So I'm looking forward to hearing your input on what direction we should go in next. I want to thank PCH and Councilwoman Pastor for letting those of us from District 8 come and join you here in beautiful District 4. PCH has been a wonderful partner for us on a wide variety of children's issues, public safety issues, fighting drowning. They recently joined us on a partnership with biomedical jobs and the Moonshot to cure cancer for children. So the Children's Hospital really is an economic development partner in addition to making sure that we have safe and healthy children. And once again, they've opened up their doors to welcome the city of Phoenix and this budget hearing. So we cannot thank them enough for all they do for our community. And with that, I will turn it over to the numbers people actually want to hear.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And with that, we'll go to the video, and then afterwards we'll get to Councilwoman Pastor will say a few words, and then we'll get to the cards. So without further ado, we will go to the video.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2016-17 City Manager's Trial Budget.
Input from our residents is very important, as your ideas can help shape what will end up being the final budget for the next fiscal year.
The final budget is important because it provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money and how services that you depend on could be impacted.
I think the City Manager's Trial Budget provides a great pathway for us to continue providing the outstanding services that Phoenix residents expect, and it gives employees the opportunity to continue to provide that great service every day.
Why is a balanced budget important? It's required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, there is a $60 million surplus that can be used to improve essential services that will benefit the community. Examples include public safety needs, employee compensation, and restoration of some programs and services. So how does the funding work? Funding for the city budget comes from three sources: the general fund, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. Examples of general fund city departments include police, fire, the library, parks and recreation, and streets. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds account for designated sources of money for a specific purpose, like sales tax dollars for the hiring of police officers and firefighters, and funds for public transit.
So how did we get here? Under the leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced.
The mayor and city council have really set the tone and direction for our city staff and employees to be focused on innovation and efficiency.
Here's just some of the ways that happened. First, eliminating 119 vacant positions and other administrative savings actions that will result in an overall savings of just over $11 million. Second, there is a one-time carryover of $25 million from last year's surplus. Also, the city is saving by making needed adjustments to the Workers' Compensation Fund and has sold extra police helicopters that were too expensive to maintain. Did you know that Phoenix has reduced administrative expenses and has the smallest number of employees per capita in over 40 years? And while still providing great services, the city has reduced authorized staffing levels by more than 2,700 positions. That is 16% since 2007. Also, city staff is constantly finding innovative ways to save money. Did you know that since 2010, we have saved $106 million in taxpayer funding? Some examples. The municipal court. It saved almost $600,000 by eliminating a criminal courtroom and a civil courtroom due to lower court volume. Plus, a new process with copy services. By reducing the number of printers and copiers citywide and securing more competitive rates with copy contracts, the city should save hundreds of thousands of dollars each year. Now to rising pension costs, which continue to be an important issue. Thanks to the leadership of the mayor and city council and actions taken by voters, the savings from reform efforts will reach $1.1 billion over a 23-year period. And what a difference a year makes. Last year's 5-year forecast projected a deficit of up to $58 million. But with guidance from the mayor and council and the efficient work of city staff, that deficit was eliminated without reducing services to the community.
Mayor and council also expect us to provide great service, and that's what the city employees work to do every day.
One of the biggest challenges the city faces has to do with how the city will continue to make its debt payments for voter-approved capital projects.
We're at a place where we need to make tough choices, like any of us during the recession, where you may have lost a job or your wife may have lost their job, and your income changed, and your bill stayed the same. So the City of Phoenix is at that point now.
Several options will be discussed, including increasing Phoenix's combined property tax rate. Phoenix has had the same rate for 20 years. That means since 1995, residents have paid $1.82 per $100 of assessed value for property tax. The rate has gone unchanged while the city's population grew and important services developed, like new fire stations, parks, and libraries. The city has been using a reserved fund to help pay off that debt. This has relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession.
What other cities in the valley, after the recession, they started to, when their assessed valuation changed, the values of their properties changed, they started to float their rate up and down so that they levied the same amount of money, brought in the same amount of income. What the City of Phoenix did, we thought that we would give our taxpayers relief. So we kept the rate at $1.82.
In the meantime, the city had debt to pay, so a reserve fund was used. This relieved homeowners from increases in property tax rates, especially during the recession. But now that well of backup money is finally running dry, and the city needs to raise an additional $37 million to pay the debt service. Otherwise, Phoenix's strong credit rating could take a hit.
We are taking in less money, and now we still have the same payments. Our payment on our mortgage is essentially our debt service. That's what we have to continue making. At the same time, we have other sources or other services that we provide. Those costs have also increased, and our ability to make those payments has gotten tougher and tougher.
The budget lays out 5 ways to solve this. A detailed explanation of these options are in the trial budget summary booklet, handed out at all public meetings and online at phoenix.gov/budget. Option number 1, increase the combined property tax rate by 35 cents to $2.17. This would equal an additional $4.25 per month on an average single-family home, about 14 cents a day. Even at this rate, the average single-family homeowner will still be paying less than they did back in 2009.
We could continue to provide services, infrastructure, pay our debt at the lowest, cheapest possible cost, and maintain a very strong bond rating and to provide our citizens with good services for many years to come.
Option number 2, generate $37 million in other ways by increasing a local sales tax, a food tax, or perhaps an addition to your city services bill. Option number 3, use all of the $60 million surplus to provide property tax relief for 2 years. That means no money would be available to restore employee concessions or add community services, including those cut in previous years. Now keep in mind, with this option, the city would still need to find a solution to this problem in 2 years, and this could hurt the city's strong credit rating. Option number 4, use some of the surplus money to provide tax relief for 1 more year, along with some of our reserve funds, but the issue will have to be addressed again next year. Now with this option, the city could improve some proposed services, but not all. And this option could hurt the city's strong credit rating.
Some of these other options are short-term, which means they're only going to provide a solution for 1 year, maybe 2 years. And it really is just kicking the can down the road, and we will be back in this situation in a couple of years asking for a solution from our citizens.
Option number 5, cut $37 million from the general fund by making significant cuts that would directly affect the city's ability to serve residents and business owners. The city manager has outlined $44 million in services from which to choose. This includes cutting $14 million from the police department, $10 million from the fire department, more than $2 million in library services, and $6 million from the city's parks and recreation department. In a service business like the city, dollars translate into the people who provide the services, like 911 response, recreation programs, senior and youth services, and more.
Since 2010, we've been drawing down our fund balance reserve for our GO bonds, and we're at the end of that. So this is the last year that we can use that reserve to pay our debt service.
How will the city tackle this debt service situation for the long term? The plan is to refund and restructure bonds as long as rates remain where they are now. Until then, one of the mentioned 5 options must happen in order to pay the city's debt service for the facilities we've built. This is critical in order to keep the city's strong credit rating, which lets the city borrow money at a low interest rate to fund projects that are important to you. A look at these 5 options are on page 5 of your trial budget summary booklet.
Here's a look at the new services proposed in the trial budget. Many residents feel that protecting the public should be the city's top priority. The mayor and council agree it's critically important to keep everyone safe. That's why public safety and criminal justice amounts to 72% of the general fund in this trial budget. The new budget adds $2.4 million for the first year of a 3-year, $11 million plan for Phoenix police officers to start using body cameras.
Well, body cameras mean a lot of things. Safety is one of them, transparency is one of them, trust is another thing. For our residents, it allows them to have greater confidence in their police department.
The budget would also allow the department to hire a director of employee assistance and wellness.
Our employees are our most valuable asset. We need to make sure we take care of our employees. By hiring this position, it allows us to do that.
Now to the fire department. The budget would spend $2.8 million in one-time costs to replace the obsolete Emergency Transportation Billing System, known as EPCR.
We are the last large city in the state of Arizona to move forward with EPCR.
Electronic records will let our paramedics spend more time on patient care and less time on paperwork, and make payments from insurance carriers more efficient.
The latest technology for us to do our jobs more efficiently, protect the information of the community, bill efficiently so the taxpayers are getting revenue back into the pockets in order to provide services to the city of Phoenix.
The budget also calls for spending $1 million to begin rebuilding the road to North Mountain, along with fixing the radio tower to make it meet industry standards. The radio tower is critical to the city's public safety radio system. Now, to dedicated public safety special revenue funds. Because these funds will be balanced next year, the budget includes the hiring of 130 police officers in 2016-2017.
Other than 2015, we hadn't hired any police officers for almost 6 years.
The council also approved a plan to hire 36 firefighters next fiscal year.
We have been fortunate over the last couple of years to be able to hire minimal amounts of firefighters. This will allow us to fill all of our vacancies.
Now, let's look at dedicated Phoenix Parks and Preserves initiative funds. Money would go toward operating and maintaining the new dog park at Esteban Park and Lindo Park. From the Development Services Fund, which is paid for by building permit and inspection fees, is this proposal. The city is seeing a huge spike in construction, which is great news. To keep up with demand, the budget calls for adding 8 new positions to meet the needs of all the growth. Out of the Solid Waste Special Enterprise Funds, the trial budget calls for adding 15 positions and equipment needed to support curbside green organics, diversion, and illegal dumping programs. This will ensure that Phoenix continues to be a national leader in keeping waste out of city landfills. The budget calls for a few additions that directly will help the members of our community. They include new funding to support the city's continued effort to get veterans off the streets and back on their feet.
So the proposed funding will support peer navigators who help veterans living on the street make all the connections they need to make to get into housing and stay housed.
And money to add staff and supplies for after-school programs for disengaged youth.
This funding would really allow us to increase our programming by offering STEM programs, physical activities, as well as interaction between the youth and adults in many of our city parks.
Looking ahead, one of the biggest challenges to the general fund continues to be the cost of employee pensions. The trial budget reflects an increase of $15 million in civilian employee pension costs. But since the mayor and city council took action on pension reform and the voters made their voices heard, these short-term increases will slow over time with a savings of more than $1 billion over the next 2 decades. Now to the police and fire pensions, which will go up $21 million. This is the result of a state Supreme Court decision. Increases in future years are partly because of other pending court challenges and system funding issues. Also, proposed reforms could help reduce how much the city will pay in the future. Then there's employee compensation. For 6 years, city employees have been part of the shared solution of our budget issues, agreeing to almost 6% in cuts to compensation. 4.2% of that is still in effect. The trial budget proposes to responsibly restore some of it, 2.6%, or $44 million, over the next 2 years. This is an investment in our most valuable resource, the workers. As a service business, the city depends on good workers to provide outstanding services. Keep in mind, the budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like.
The budget is really for the people of Phoenix, and so for it to be the best budget possible, it needs to reflect what people have to tell us, and that's why we're out to listen to the residents in the trial budget.
In summary, the trial budget has several options, including solving the debt service issue by raising the combined property tax by 35 cents to $2.17. This would allow the city to use surplus money to add critical services to our police, fire, and other city departments. It would also allow the city to restore some concessions made by city workers 6 years ago.
15 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for attending this budget hearing and being part of a very important process. The City of Phoenix is committed to its mission of improving the quality of life in Phoenix through the efficient delivery of outstanding public services.
All right, so, whoa, all right, now we're on. We already noticed a mistake we made in the video, which we'll have to fix. The dog park is at Esteban, and there's a community center that's going to be built at Lindo Park, and so it's not a dog park at Lindo. So we'll get that fixed. So we will go to our cards in just a second. We'll go with a couple minutes per speaker. We'll ask that you come up and pick one of these two microphones to speak from. And before we do that, I'll invite Councilwoman Pastor if she would like to say a few words.
So thank you for being here. Appreciate you being active in the budget hearings. I find this piece the most important piece in our budget process because we want to hear from the community and what the community would like to see. In addition to that, it is also like to thank the staff that's here because they seem to, it's really funny because I always chuckle with them and say, you seem to live our lives because you're at everything that we are at, and so they also make many sacrifices from their family, and so I appreciate that they're here today and part of this process. And we want the experts here so that you can ask the experts the hard questions also. I would also like to thank our public safety that are here and part of our budget meetings to be able to also let us know what is needed out in the field and what we need for our community. And so thank you for being here. Of course, everybody. It's very important. As you can see, all the options, and we're going to make some very tough decisions. And so it's, to me, I want to hear your opinion before I make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So we'll start with public comments, questions, and opinions. And we'll begin, as I introduced earlier, a former council member, Craig Tribkin, and Craig will be followed by Walt Gray.
I've got a quick handout. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you, council members, for being here. I'm representing Central Arizona Shelter Services, or CAS, as you probably know, and I just want to point out, I want to urge you to accept option one, the city manager's of the city manager's trial budget. As you can see by the attached chart I gave you, the city funding of Central Arizona Shelter Services is down from $921,000 in 2007 and 2008, the time of the Great Recession. It's down to $741,000 right now, which is a reduction of about 20%. If you don't accept option one, it will be looking at a reduction of a total of 25% over the last 8 years. And we are cut to the bone at this point. Central Arizona Shelter Services provides emergency shelter and employment services, medical services, dental services to homeless people throughout the valley. We have 4,700 unduplicated visits, unduplicated persons per year that visit us, and over 62% of them stay for only 3 weeks. And so we're a true emergency shelter, but we need the money to keep surviving the way we are, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.
My name is Walt Gray.
Hold on a second. Walt will be followed by Bill Shepard.
My name is Walt Gray. I'm a community activist with the West Side Town Hall program in West Phoenix. Our points are that custodial workers who were made contract employees with lower wages and benefits during the Great Recession should be restored to civil service status over 3 years. The first year would be college preparation, second year community college and technical education, third year restoration of civil service status for these custodial workers. And and then they would be eligible for higher jobs because of their education. This is done in the community college district. City employees should not have the full restoration of their pay raises, or pay cuts, or their concessions. There is no need to do that. Everybody had to take an unrestored pay cut during the Great Recession. Everybody in any level of government, private sector, and even retired people like myself. We do think city employees deserve some type of pay raise, and we propose an across-the-board $750 increase each of the next 2 years, the contract years. These would be promote teamwork because they give bigger raises to the lower paid employees. The city should avoid the secondary property tax increase. It looks like a small increase. It doesn't look like, if it's a small increase, then it should not be levied. We were going to propose cutting it in half. We feel that, I don't know if they said here what the average value of a home is in Phoenix. In West Phoenix, it's about $125,000, so I'm not sure what it is here in, for the whole city. There should be no increase in sales tax and no restoration of the food tax. These are regressive taxes that punish the lower incomes, middle class and lower incomes. And so therefore we don't support either increase. We think they're unnecessary. The city should save more money through technical innovation and efficiencies. The city saved $100 million over a 5-year period ending a couple of years ago. And that's a $20 million a year average. The video does say the city has efficiency things, but we think they can do about $15 million. That's a little bit more than what they're suggesting. The city should use a 4-wheel drive vehicle to get to the North Mountain Radio Tower.
Mr. Gray, if you could wrap it up, please.
Okay. That would eliminate $1 million that's proposed for paving the road to the North Mountain Tower. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bill Shepard, and Bill will be followed by Joseph Benesh.
Councilwoman Gallego, Councilwoman Storr, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Budget Man. My name is Bill Shepard. I live at 77 East Missouri in Phoenix. I'm a resident of District 4. I'm here to speak for the arts and the $50,000 increase for arts grants proposed in the budget. I'm all in favor of that. It gets us back to almost where we were before we had to start taking cuts. The goal is to eventually get to $1 per capita, which would be about $1.5 million for arts grants. We're a long way from that, and that was also recommended by the city manager's task force a few years back. But 50,000 is 50,000. I know my friends at the Arts Commission will spend it very well, and I'm here to support that. I have a second thing I'd like to talk about, and that is public art. We have a lot of public art here in Phoenix. It's very good, but it needs repair, it needs maintenance, it needs restoration. I'm a part of a recently formed group called the Friends of Phoenix Public Art. We're private citizens, and we have as our goal to try to raise approximately $75,000 this year in private funds to put toward our public artworks. That's a drop in the bucket of what it really takes. The city currently spends about $49,000 for that goal, and so I would like to also recommend that you consider bumping that much by about $25,000 so we can be true partners in this effort. I have some handouts, including a map of where our city public art is, including something about the gallery at City Hall, which was one of the first efforts that we made toward that. It wasn't a Friends of Phoenix Public Art group, but it was just private citizens. We set out to raise $50,000 to restore a little room in City Hall into an art gallery, and we exceeded 100. And it's a beautiful gallery in there today. So we can make this happen. And finally, there's an invitation to an event we're having on the 1st and 2nd, which I'd like you to all consider coming to. It's the first FAPA, we need a new name, but it's the first Friends of Phoenix Public Art little project that we're doing in connection with a lot of other people. And it's an interactive art installation, so come on down on Friday and Saturday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepard. Joseph Benesh, and he'll be followed by Tom Van Dorn.
Thank you. Joseph Benesh, I live in District 8. First, I'd like to know what the council can do about the pollen count, because it's getting me. But thank you to the council and Ed for hosting this and all the city staff here. I know you work very hard. So I'm a citizen. I'm a member of the Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture Commission, and I'm the director of the Phoenix Center for the Arts. So I'm here in support of the $50,000 increase to arts grants. We are still a long ways behind other cities, and we need to get there. That dollar per capita would be amazing. I'm not in support of a cut to the cultural facility support, because those are some of our beacons of success that show off the talent we have in this city across the country. Something that the arts and artists are not always good at, I know I wasn't when I was a young man, is telling the world that the arts are job creators. Artists are an individual business. Arts organizations are small or medium-sized businesses. And every business chamber across the country will tell you that the small and medium-sized businesses are the job creators. They're the ones hit by recessions. They're the ones who create the first jobs when they come back, not just the big corporations. So hopefully that information can be carried forward, that we are job creators. And the other thing that arts organizations do, especially the nonprofits, is that we double the money that the city gives out the moment it gets given, because we have to match that money. It's not just a donation. We have to match the money that the city and the state also gives us, and whether that's by earned income or whether through other donations. So if anybody else knows of an investment where you can double your money the moment you write the check, please tell me, because I like to invest when I can. And we're also very fiscally responsible, because we have to do a lot of reporting to the city, to any arts, any funder that we apply to. Makes us do these really, really long reports. I know, because that's what I get paid to do. And thankfully, I like numbers. And so, but you know that when you give money to arts nonprofits, that money is being well managed, very, very responsibly, very, very carefully. As a taxpayer and a homeowner in District 8, I'm personally in favor of that small tax hike. I have a family. We walk South Mountain. We go to the dog park on Rozier. We partake in the arts as well. And I'm more than happy to pay just a little bit more so me and my kids can have more, mostly free stuff to do. Thank you.
Tom Van Dorn is followed by Steve Berline.
Right, thank you. Vice Mayor Gallego, Councilwoman Pastor, and Mr. Zerker. My name is Tom Van Dorn, and I speak to you as a proud resident here in District 4. But in full disclosure, I must also tell you that I'm also one of your public safety employees. Today, I am asking for your support in restoring concessions made by your public safety employees during the most challenging times that faced our great city. While cities across the valley are operating under the same fiscal challenges as Phoenix, they've been able to give their employees raises. Since 2010, Phoenix police officers and firefighters have voluntarily agreed to take a series of temporary pay cuts amounting to nearly 6% of total compensation. While a portion of these cuts have been restored, as promised by our city leadership, today, Phoenix police officers and firefighters are still feeling the impact of 4.2% in compensation concessions. At the same time, inflation has also significantly hurt the buying powers of our own families. When you combine the hit to our paychecks with the effects of inflation, Phoenix police officers and firefighters have about 18% less buying power than we also did in 2010. Your firefighters and police officers have been team players for years, and we will continue to do so. In fact, for the first time in our city's history, your police officers and firefighters are standing united in not only asking you to restore our concessions, but for the overall safety and benefit of our entire Phoenix community. This is something for which we should all be very proud. We will not let you down, and we're not asking you for a raise. All we want is to get back the 4.2% in concession cuts that we took that was promised nearly 6 years ago. I truly do appreciate the difficult challenges that you face when having to balance the city's budget, which must first and always take into consideration our entire Phoenix community. However, I simply ask that we work together, we pool our resources, and look for new and innovative ways that will not only generate revenue for our city, but help us balance the budget, while also restoring the 4.2% in concession cuts that we've had to take. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tom. Steve Berline, and Steve is followed by Raul Daniels.
Thank you. Council members, city manager, staff, thank you. I just want to start real quick. I'm a tax-paying citizen of Phoenix. I wholeheartedly support increase in property tax. I think that's money we need and would be very well spent. My name is Steve Berline. I'm currently a captain with the Phoenix Fire Department. I've been with Phoenix for 26 years now. We are very happy, firefighters are very happy that we have finally reached a budget surplus. It's been a long time coming. And we all know that this surplus is due in part to the concessions taken by the employees, firefighters, and police officers over the last 6 years. Unfortunately, this next budget uses this surplus to fund additional projects and programs before restoring 6 years of employee concessions. It has become very obvious to your firefighters and police officers that the proposed projects and programs are being funded by our concessions. And that, to us, quite honestly, is insulting. It is time now for the city to restore the 4.2% concessions for our firefighters and police officers and for all city employees. 6 years ago, when the city experienced a deficit, we conceded wages and benefits to help balance the budget. That was the right thing to do. And 4 years ago, when the city bounced back, we experienced a minimal restoration. And 2 years ago, when the city once again experienced a deficit, we cut our wages and benefits even further to help balance the budget. Today we have a surplus, and it is time for the city to restore the 4.2% concessions back to your firefighters and police officers who risk their lives every day to keep our city safe, and to all the city employees who continue to do more with less to assure that the city of Phoenix is a great place to live. That is the right thing to do. Over the past 6 years, the number of Phoenix firefighters protecting the city has been reduced, and the number of calls for help have risen. During the last 4 years, we have experienced an increase of 40,000 additional calls for help with 72 fewer firefighters. We are facing more hazards and deadly exposures today than we have ever faced in our careers. Firefighting is more dangerous now than it has ever been in my 30 years as a firefighter. We've heard some crazy assumptions regarding employee pay and benefits. The fact of the matter is Phoenix firefighters start at $15.90 an hour, and 40% of Phoenix groundskeepers are eligible for food stamps. 46% of Phoenix street maintenance workers are eligible for food stamps. We're not asking for much, and we have more than earned full restorations of our concessions. So let me be clear. These projection programs must not be built on the city's firefighters and police officers. Please restore our concessions. That is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Raul Daniels will be followed by Greta Rogers.
Thank you very much. The city of Phoenix, Maricopa County, #1 in the nation with number of youth 16 to 24. They're out of school and out of work. We're #1 in the country. The vast majority of those kids, about 180 to 200,000 16 to 24-year-olds in this county, most of them in Phoenix, live in South Phoenix and in Maryvale. I live in Laveen, excuse me. The city of Phoenix at one time had the City Streets Teen Program, which was the national model by the County Council on Adolescent Development. That program was created to address the needs of teens in the city of Phoenix. That entire program was cut several years ago. Might take a look at reinstating some of that program. I do want to congratulate you all for participating, for allowing the teens to participate in their own budget hearing. I guess what, April 5th or 12th, something like that. Keep in mind that we may look at teens as a whole different animal, and they don't vote, but every time one of these kids joins a gang, they just voted. Every time this kid just dropped out of high school, they just voted. Every time they became a teen parent at 14, 15-year-olds, they just voted. Every time they shot someone in the street, they just voted. We need to reinstate this program and at least begin addressing the needs of the teens in this city. Second of all, I have a daughter who would love to be here, but she can't speak, she can't walk. I've tried for several years to contact the Parks and Rec Department to provide services for special needs kids. There is none. They told me they're all cut as well. So if you can please take a look at how we can maybe address the needs of both in one opportunity there, I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raul. So just to clarify, Raul, thank you for your work in creating City Streets many years ago. And the addition in the budget is partly restoring something that's a lot like City Streets. It's the mobile van. That's what's in the proposed budget. And we'll have someone from Parks follow up with you about your daughter, too. Thank you. Greta Rogers, and Greta will be followed by Benny Butt.
I've got a limp mic. Good evening, everyone. I'm Greta Rogers. I live in Ahwatukee, and I go to most of these meetings, as well as most council meetings and subcommittee meetings. I'm a burr in the city's saddle with a smile. I'm in favor of the property tax increase. We have the lowest city property tax of any city of 500,000 to New York at over 7 million in this whole country. It's sinful, it's shameful, and it's unacceptable. The additional 35 cents per hundred that it will cost property owners isn't going to put them in the poorhouse or eligible for food stamps. I don't buy the poor pity me story. If we want to be a city that's recognized as a city, we have to carry our own weight and row the boat with 2 oars. And it costs money. And the way democracy works, and the only way it works, is citizen and corporate taxation. If we don't have that, we have monarchy, dictatorship, or the worst of all, anarchy. So take your pick. I think we'll take the increase in the property tax of 35 cents per hundred, and nobody's going to be in the poorhouse or even close. I met with Ed in January at a private meeting that he was gracious enough to grant me. And I took to him 3 essentials for the 15-16 budget, and I said they're non-negotiable, so don't give me any BS. And he didn't. He may have wanted to, but he didn't. Number 1, raise all employee salaries. We have the worst morale in the city among the employees who are the engine of this city. They provide all the services that we accept and take for granted in many cases. Hourly first, salaried second. Bring police and fire to full complement within 2 years, this year and next year. And no ifs, ands, or buts. And 3, give the street department enough budget money this year, next year, and the following year to really make a dent in improving the deteriorating, crumbling, inadequate streets in this city. I'm not going to wait for 0.3 cent transportation tax to materialize for this to happen, because it ain't going to happen over 35 years. It's going to produce 22% of what we've been told it'll produce. It was a big fairy tale. I want it in the budget this year, next year, and the following year for streets. And if you have to cut other programs, so be it. They aren't essential. These are essential, and that's what I told Ed. Non-essentials will be put on the holding block. And I have no I'm not negotiable on that. Now, someone on Walt asked, what's the average price of a house in the city of Phoenix today? About $230,000.
Ms. Rogers, if you could wrap it up, please.
Yes, sir. About $230,000. So that is not going to be a downfall for anybody with $2.17 per hundred property tax. We want a good city, we pay for it. Thank you. Now what do I do with it? It doesn't fit in there.
Thank you, Greta. The street department, actually, you're going to see a lot of street paving starting this spring. So, all right. I have Benny Butt, is followed by P.J. Dean. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. You did wish not to speak, but you said you'd like to have firefighter and police wage concessions restored before funding other programs. 3 times in your career, fire department made concessions to help the city in troubled times. And so you'd like to see concessions restored. Thank you for being here. Thank you. P.J. Dean did not wish to speak, but says, please restore police and fire pay fully. Next we have Victoria Aurora, I think, if I said that correctly, Victoria. And Victoria will be followed by Abraham James.
Hello, my name is Victoria Aurora, and I take classes, piano, theater, and art classes at the Phoenix Center for the Arts. And I also sing in the Phoenix Children's Chorus. And the arts are very important to me because it helps me express myself. It's a really good way to relieve stress, and it's really something that I'm interested in. I am a straight A student, and I believe that more funding should continue going to the arts. Thank you.
Abraham James. Yeah, good luck, Abraham. And Abraham will be followed by Ken Crane.
How do you follow that? Well, my name is Abraham James, and I sit on a number of boards and commissions within the city of Phoenix. Tonight, well, I am the chair of the Arts and Cultural Commission, and I'm also one of the commissioners on the Library Advisory Board. Maybe I got it backward, but anyway, but you get the idea. I would hope that the city of Phoenix will continue to support the arts as well as libraries within our city. I would hope that the city of Phoenix would continue to support parks, you know, and for senior centers within our cities. Our city is going to continue to grow. And I know it's very important that we support fire, the police, but it is the arts that I strongly feel, you know, which is very much the heart of our city, as well as the libraries, is very much important to our citizens. So, and, you know, and for me, just for me, it was through the arts, you know, which have led to my career in architecture. I mean, early on I was a
young person living along the coast of Georgia between Savannah and Jacksonville in the Gullah Geechee communities in Georgia. And it was the opportunity to go to art classes when I was going to public school in McIntosh County Academy as a kid. So, you know, and I would want the same thing for many of the young and future citizens of the city to get that opportunity to be exposed to the arts through our culture, through the things that go on within the Office of Arts and Culture, through our public art, and also the availability of having our libraries, you know, that we support them, as well as other opportunities and things that, that would help our citizens in the near future. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Abraham. Ken Crane, and Ken will be followed by Jason Stokes.
Good evening, thank you. My name's Ken Crane. I'm a resident of the city of Phoenix. I'm also the president of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, so I represent about 2,300 rank and file police officers. And Greta, thank you for your support. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. I just want to start off by making a couple of points. Since 2010, Public Safety has voluntarily agreed to a series of temporary pay cuts amounting to about 6% in total compensation. While a sliver of these cuts have been restored, as promised by city leadership today, police and firefighters still feel the impact of 4.2% in compensation concessions. I think it's important to note that these concessions we agreed to, the emphasis is on the word temporary, okay? And that started 6 years ago. We've been team players for years. We continue to be. We're not asking for a raise. There's a difference between a raise and restoring pay cuts. I think that needs to be clear. We just want to get back to 4.2% in cuts we took, as we've been promised for 6 years now. We agreed to earn less so taxpayers wouldn't have to pay more. And we felt at the time that that was the right thing to do, to step up, be team players, and help the city out. But we think right now it's time for the city of Phoenix to honor our contracts and keep its promise to take care of the city's police officers and firefighters. By agreeing to temporary pay cuts, cuts to our health care, and drastically cutting the number of sworn Phoenix police officers and firefighters, we saved the city, by our estimate, close to $500 million since 2010. That's close to $500 million. A couple other points. In 2011, the Phoenix General Fund revenues were $948 million. Since then, the general fund revenues have grown 16% to about $1.1 billion for 2016 to 2017. General fund revenues of more than $1.1 billion represent the highest revenues of city history, eclipsing the boom year of 2007. On personnel issues, in 2009, the Phoenix Police Department had 3,332 sworn officers, but today we have 2,771 sworn. This is a reduction of 561 sworn officers. At one point, we were 700 down. We had not hired for well over 6 years, and we feel the hit out on the street. We have squads routinely going out on the street, sometimes staffed at a 50% level, which is a huge, huge safety issue, and not only that, it impacts the citizens we serve. It hurts our response times. We can't get there as fast as we normally would, which is huge to us because we are there to serve the city. So when you look at that number, just to give you a visual, those numbers, that 500 to 600 down, would be the equivalent of eliminating every single sworn police officer in the city of Glendale and every single sworn police officer in Avondale simultaneously. Just eradicating the police forces of those two cities. That's what we're experiencing, manpower-wise. So inflation significantly hurt the buying power of our families, and when you combine the hit to our paychecks with the effects of inflation, Phoenix police officers and firefighters have about 18% less buying power than we did in 2010. So again, I'm wrapping it up here. So again, all we're asking is that we restore the concessions, again, not asking for a pay raise, but just giving back now that the city's in better economic position and we believe, can afford to do so. We don't think we're trying to be greedy or overzealous in what we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. Jason Stokes. Jason will be followed by Destiny Galindo.
Thank you. My name is Jason Stokes. I'm a native and resident and homeowner here in Phoenix. Actually grew up just a few blocks from here, went to Loma Linda, went to Camelback, and it's amazing to see how much everything's changed since I grew up, since I started down here. For the last 24 years, I've been an employee with the City of Phoenix. I'm not a police officer, I'm not a firefighter. I work in the 911 center, providing critical services there. Every employee in the city at this point is critical. As you've heard, the cuts to police and fire within my group, before the cuts started, we had 3,300 people in the supervisory and professional area. We're down to 2,700 now. So 600 positions that we've lost. The proposed budget is offering to cut another 191 of those, and we're tapped out. The turnover, the concessions, as Ms. Rogers stated, the morale is at the lowest point I've seen. The good news is this: we provide the best service of any city in this state, and we're very proud of that. We look for the things to be proud of. We take tremendous pride in seeing a smile on a citizen's face. If you're ever downtown, especially around City Hall, don't hesitate to ask somebody if you're lost, if you need directions. We're glad to do it. We take a lot of pride in being there for our residents. What I would like to say is I am in support of a property tax increase. I'm also in support of full concession restorations for all employees. We have gone through quite a bit, and to point those out, as this discussion goes on, you're going to hear talk about pay raises and bonuses, and these are very misleading. They're designed to turn the people that we serve against us. The fact of the matter is I went to the schools here. My kids go to school with your kids. I coach your Little League team. We have people that served in the same guard or reserve unit. We're just people like you. For these raises and bonuses, the fact is, my pay has gone down every year for the last 6 years. I have made less money every single year. There's no raise, there's no bonus that winds up with me making less money. What we do have are reduced benefits and increased costs to offset those raises that some people talk about. The latest healthcare reductions now mean that our children can't use this facility. Our health insurance doesn't cover Phoenix Children's Hospital.
Mr. Stokes, if you could wrap it up soon, please.
Sure, thank you. We have the lowest per capita number of employees that we've had in 40 years. We still have furlough days. Our pension payments, the employee side, you don't hear about that very often, have more than doubled, and until a few months ago were the highest in the nation. So I am in support of the property tax increase, but also full concession restorations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Destiny Galindo.
Hi, thank you guys. My name is Destiny Galindo. I'm 20 years old, and I came here tonight on behalf of all my friends in the demographic age group through 16 through 24. I think that we should have a budget for something that is gonna keep us out of trouble. I think that we should have fun in our lives, and it shouldn't just be business orientated. This may be business for them, but this is life for us. And everybody here today who has a complaint, there's no reason why it shouldn't get addressed, okay? And everybody who feels that they don't want a raise, I say ask for a raise. You deserve it. And I'm willing to get all of the youngins to vote. I'm willing to keep them out of trouble. If you guys can align something up for me, give me a job, let me do it, I'll get it done. I'm here to help, just like you guys, okay? I'm totally here, so I don't know, I'll give you my info after this, and I could fix almost everything. Funny, huh? I don't know, I'm speaking from the heart. How are you guys tonight? Thank you. So yeah, just youngins and voting and keeping out of trouble. Oh, And I think we need a community garden. Yeah, that'd be cool because I think they're putting chemicals in the food, like at Fry's and all that stuff. I'm just keeping it real. Thank you guys. God bless you.
Thank you, Destiny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Galindo did not wish to speak, but also is here for youth programs, jobs, neighborhood revitalization, and more police patrol. Thank you. Catherine Leonard, and Catherine will be followed by Kevin Kotmer.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Catherine Leonard. I reside at 2253 North 16th Avenue. I'm in District 4. As a resident of District 4, I want to voice support for the tax increase. I'm also here today representing, I am Vice Chair of the Phoenix Historic Preservation Commission. As Vice Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, I would like to voice support for the general terms of the budget as presented. I see, and I'm very pleased to note that there have been no cuts to, it would be community planning and development and economic development services. I wanted to talk a bit about historic preservation as a cornerstone of economic development in the city of Phoenix. Historic preservation is an economic engine for the city. Most of what we enjoy about being residents of the city is a direct result of the efforts to preserve historic urban fabric. Historic preservation has created a system of vibrant historic districts with many, many residents, those who have been there for many decades, and those who come to enjoy some of the benefits of historic preservation and urban living. Those residents also enjoy, residents of qualified properties listed in the National Register enjoy a significant tax reduction. So that is a savings, a tax savings to folks, and I'd say in Maricopa County alone, I think that there are 5,000 buildings, residential buildings that are in that program. So I think it's very important that the city preserve the historic districts, residential historic districts, so that taxpayers can have that benefit. Also, I wanted to talk a bit about our historic preservation staff. Our historic preservation staff, they are down 2 positions, and because of all of the upswing in development and new construction, their burden for review has increased almost 2-fold. So I think it is important to preserve those positions that exist, support them as we can. I don't know if many of you in the room are aware, but in 2015, we proudly launched our first historic preservation plan, Preserve Phoenix. And there are many provisions in that plan and ideas for enhancing funding. But right now, I think it's very important that we not cut or make any cuts to any programs that intersect with historic preservation planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Kotmer is the last card I have, so if you came intending to speak and you haven't yet, please fill out a card. Kevin, thank you.
Evening. My name is Kevin Kotmer. I'm a resident of District 4 and a City of Phoenix firefighter. I'm here tonight to urge council members Pastor and Gallego to please restore police and fire compensation to 2010 levels by increasing their current rate 4.2% as agreed upon in past negotiations. Since that date, public safety has stepped up to the plate every contract year of the Great Recession, doing more with less to do our part and help the city and its taxpayers save approximately $500 million through staffing reductions to the tune of 721 less police officers and firefighters on the streets of Phoenix. That staffing reduction, coupled with an increase in violent crime and a 30% spike in fire responses, equate to both agencies being strained more than I have ever seen in my 16-year career. I feel that we have been there for the city during the down revenue years. Given that the city's general fund revenues are currently the highest they've been in Phoenix's history, I think it's only fair that the city leadership use a fraction of the increased revenue to keep the promise made during the bad times and restore the 4.2% in temporary cuts police and fire took during that time of need. Adjusted for inflation, that 4.2% pay reduction is an 18% decrease in buying power for police officer and firefighters' families. As a new father myself, with all the expenses going along with that journey, I can attest that the 18% decrease in overall income number is accurate. We're not asking for a raise, just to be put back where we were 6 years ago when our fire stations were 30% less busy and our police precincts were adequately staffed. With that, I plead with you both, Pastor and Gallego, to please do the right thing and support your local police and fire. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. Again, that's all the cards I have. Is there anybody else who had submitted a card to speak? I don't see any. Just to conclude, and then I'll ask our council members if they'd like to say some final words. This is the beginning of the process. I will present a final budget recommendation to the council on May the 3rd. So there's a good 30+ days for you to read, study, comment, and get us your thoughts. There are opportunities by way of the website and email to communicate by phone. Those are all contained in the budget document. So thank you all for coming out to the first one. With that, I will turn it over to Councilwoman Pastor.
So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for expressing your concerns and needs. Just want to let you know that in public safety world, I have been doing ride-alongs, and I see the dynamics that is happening in the community. And it is important that I feel it's important that we get more cops on the streets or more officers on the streets and more fire with the items that they are requesting. These are direct requests from the men, and I have been sitting there and asking them to frankly, to be frank with me, and what is it that you need? And so they're saying more personnel, and that's what they're articulating to me.
Many thanks to everyone who came out. The budget will almost certainly evolve in response to community needs and demands, and we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here tonight, share your priorities, your stories. Congratulations to people who have new family members, new milestones. Wonderful to hear from our young people in the community as well. We do try to have a budget process that includes all folks, so if you want to participate via social media, via email, via youth budget hearing, we have one of the most inclusive budget processes anywhere, and that's a real point of pride for the City of Phoenix. So for those of you watching online, we look forward to hearing from you in many different ways. Thank you.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.